Balakand, chapter number 1. We are discussing a series of descriptions of the perfect person as understood by sage Valmiki. So far, we have seen 11 descriptions. Now we are going to go into the 12th. This is Atmavan. Atmavan means self-restraint. He, like a skillful driver, has his mind and senses under perfect control. There are a couple of other meanings as well. They are a self-realized soul, the one who is conversant with the self, the one who is engaged in devotional service and meditation with great attention, the fully realized one, having conquered his senses, a self-realized person, a very learned scholar, and well advanced in spiritual knowledge. So we can see that there is a lot of self-restraint, a lot of control, and through that control, that person is very spiritually advanced. Of course, Rama as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the most advanced of all the people. However, when we are talking about the perfections of a human being, we also need to know how restrained he is. So this is a direct opposite of Ravana, whose senses were very wayward. He was very lusty, he was greedy, he was arrogant, and he possessed all demoniac qualities. So he eats meat, he is a drunkard, he steals and kidnaps women. Therefore, he is a very demoniac person. Now, in direct contrast to Ravana's licentious behavior, we have Lord Rama, who is very self-restrained. For example, the day that he was supposed to become the king of this entire world, which was on his 25th birthday, he was sent off to the forest. And he had absolutely no qualms. And Valmiki makes it a point to note that he was extremely cheerful, and the fact that he had to stay in the forest for 14 years did not have any effect on his happy countenance. When Rama thought about Sita, at that time he felt a little sad. And Mother Sita is capable of understanding Rama's various moods, and she immediately questions Rama why he's so crestfallen. But that's a completely different situation. He had no qualms about going to the forest at all. He did not think even for 1 second that it is not fair that his younger brother should usurp his throne. So this is one example of the mental state of Lord Rama. There were times when Rama did not wish to eat anything. He just was satisfied with water from River Ganga. This happens during his stay in the banks of River Ganga at Sringavedpura, where he refuses the hospitality of Guha and asks Guha to merely feed his father's horses. And for himself, he just wants some water from River Ganga. So he is not very concerned about food. This shows a great restraint of his senses. In another example, Rama could have gone to Kishkinda to witness the coronation of his friend Sugriv, and he could have gone to the main city of Lanka to tell his beloved Sita that he won the war. And yet he doesn't do that because he promised his father that he would not enter a city or a village for the next 14 years of his exile. Thus he shows incredible resolve, incredible restraint in his senses as well. Next, we see Mother Sita arrive in a palanquin from the Ashok Vatika in front of Lord Rama, and Rama doesn't immediately go ahead and hug her and accept her exactly the way she is. He has to prove to the world that he is above lust. Therefore, he seemingly speaks harsh words, and Sita herself jumps into the fire, and this glorifies her because Mother Sita is completely unharmed by Agni. And Rama proved to the world that he was able to restrain his senses. One of the names of the Lord is Rishikesha, which means the master of senses. And therefore, this teaches us how we are supposed to see ourselves with respect to the person who is the master of all senses. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 19.170, it is mentioned, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchite. Bhakti means to serve Rishikesha by the Hrishika. Hrishika means senses, and Krishna is the master of senses. Therefore, whatever senses we have got, the master is Krishna, the proprietor is Krishna. So when our senses are engaged in the satisfaction of the master of the senses, this is called bhakti. Bhakti or devotional service. So this statement of Atmavan proves how the Lord is the master of senses. Because of his self-restraint, because he has his mind and senses under perfect control, he is Atmavan and he is Rishikesha. In Bhagavad Gita 258, Lord Krishna says, Yada samharate chayam kurmo anganiva sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyas tasya prajna pratishtitha. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as a tortoise draws his limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. The purport is as follows. The test of a yogi, devotee, or self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. Most people, however, are servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictation of the senses. That is the answer to the question as to how the yogi is situated. The senses are compared to the venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restriction. The yogi or the devotee must be very strong to control the serpents like a snake charmer. He never allows them to act independently. There are many injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are do nots and some of them are do's. Unless one is able to follow the do's and the do nots, restricting oneself from sense enjoyment, it is not possible to be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. The best example set herein is the tortoise. The tortoise can at any moment wind up its senses and exhibit them again at any time for particular purposes. Similarly, the senses of the Krishna conscious persons are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are withdrawn otherwise. Arjuna is being taught here to use his senses for the service of the Lord instead of for his own satisfaction. Keeping the senses always in the service of the Lord is the example set by the analogy of the tortoise who keeps the senses within. Now, of course, we need to understand that the person who has described how to control the senses obviously is the master of all the senses. And this is why the Lord is known as Rishikesha, and this is the reason why one of the qualities is Atmavan. Now let us look at the next description called Jita Krodho. Jita means control or win over, and Krodha means ire or anger. So he is the one that allows not his temper to get the upper hand of him. So Rama does not get angry. That's why his name is Jita Krodho. Now let us understand the difference between Lord Rama's anger and our anger. There is a huge difference. So let us go to Bhagavad Gita 262 to figure out the source of our anger. Dhyayato vishayan pumsha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho bijayate. While contemplating the object of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. The purport says, one who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in this transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagements in the service of materialism. So Krishna very clearly says that Dhyayataha Vishayan Pumsha. When the person contemplates the objects of senses, that person develops some sangha or attachment towards them. And from such attachment develops kama or desire, and from kama comes krodha. But in the previous description, we saw that Rama is completely self-restrained. Therefore, the Lord is not attached to anything. So, how can he develop any lust? And since he doesn't have any lust, he doesn't have any anger. So, Krishna has given the step-by-step flow chart as to how anger arises. Since the Lord is above the three modes of material nature, he doesn't get dragged into the contemplation of the object of senses. He doesn't have any attachment for the senses, and therefore the lust doesn't develop, and neither does anger. So this is the reason why ordinary materialistic people get angry. And we know that Rama is above all the material modes of nature, therefore he does not get angry the way we do. Now let us see the reasons why Rama does get angry. Because there are multiple instances in Valmiki Ramayana where Rama gets very angry. For example, Rama was angry with Lord Parashurama. Rama was angry with the ocean lord. And of course, when Rama fights with the Rakshasas, he does display a little bit of anger. But why does he get angry? We know that it is not because of attachment towards the sense objects and lust. Therefore, what is the reason? The reason is Rama's kindness, Rama's affection for his devotees. In the case of Parashurama, Rama could see that his beloved father, King Dashratha, was very worried about Rama's safety, and therefore Rama could not bear to see his father in such dire straits, and he displays his anger. In the case with the ocean lord, he gets angry because for the past 3 days, Mother Sita was anxiously waiting for him in Lanka. And every day was very special. And Rama wanted to hasten to the rescue of his beloved wife or his beloved devotee. And this is why he gets angry. Even with the Rakshasas, the Rakshasas were also his devotees who were sent from the spiritual world so that the Lord can exercise his fighting potency. And there is one very important distinction between the Lord's anger and our anger. Our anger is very devastating because it is subject to material desires, whereas through the Lord's anger, he can display his compassion and his affection towards his devotees. For example, Parashurama's pride was curbed, but Parashurama got the side of Lord Rama. Then the ocean lord was able to surrender to Lord Rama, and he was able to render service to the Vanaras and Lord Rama. The Rakshasas that were annihilated by Rama's wonderful arrows, they were immediately given liberation. So the Lord is always very kind. Whether he displays his anger or not, he is very kind. But Valmiki makes it a point to mention over here that he is Jita Krodha, the one who has conquered his anger. Therefore, we should also understand that the person who has conquered his anger cannot be disillusioned, because in Bhagavad Gita 263 Krishna says, Krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vibramaha smriti bhramshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So this is Krishna's analysis as to why anger appears in a person and what are the after effects of anger. So the number one thing is complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. From that, intelligence is lost, and from that, the person falls again into the material pool. Since Rama does not get angry at all, he is never under delusion. He doesn't lose his memory. His intelligence is always supreme. And of course, Rama cannot be influenced by the modes of material nature because he is the source of the modes of the material nature, and therefore he cannot be influenced by them. He is the master of the material nature. So this is the reason why Valmiki has mentioned Jita Krodha. And yes, it is necessary for us to know that Rama does display his anger, but Rama's anger is very different from our anger. And that is the most important point, because our anger can cause us to fall down into this material pool, whereas Rama's anger will help liberate everyone else. This is the difference. So we will go through the other descriptions in the next section.